What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Run with Jay channel. So the highly anticipated Vaporfly Next percent is back with number 2 this year. So in this video, we're going to take a look at the shoe, test it out, see what's different compared to last year's model, and see if this year's model is truly better than last year's. So if you guys are new to this channel, welcome. Please hit that like and subscribe button, as well as the bell for notifications. And to all my returning subscribers, thank you so much for your contribution and support. So let's get this review started. So as usual, let's take a look at the specs. So this shoe had a pre-release in February of 2021, and that sold out within minutes. And now this shoe is finally supposed to be released here in the US sometime in May of 2021. The price of this shoe is still $250, so that hasn't changed. I did hear rumors months ago that this shoe is supposed to come down in price about $25, but that may be wishful thinking, as I wonder why Nike would drop the price of the shoe when it's such a hot commodity. Maybe it's to compete with all the other brands that are coming out with faster and lighter racing shoes as well, but who knows. This shoe still weighs pretty much the same compared to last year's version, about 6.6 ounces for 8.5. I feel like the last year's model might be a tad bit lighter, but it's so small of a difference that you probably won't even notice it. This shoe still has an 8mm offset with a 40 in the heel and a 32mm in the forefoot. So it is World Athletics legal, so you can use it in competitions. I know there was a whole controversy, last year when the first Vaporfly Next percent was released, of how the shoe was too fast, and people wanted to ban it, and then new regulations were set. So this shoe is legal to use in races. So this shoe is made up of a few important components. You have the upper here, which this here is made up of the breathable mesh. And the laces here is taking some cues from the Alphafly Next percent with these serrated edges. So it's supposed to help you tie the shoe up, so it's not supposed to come loose as often. The asymmetrical laces pattern is still the same compared to last year's with the tongue. However, the tongue this year does have a tiny bit of padding in it to help with the lacing on top, so there's not too much pressure on the top of your foot. In the midsole, you have, the tried and true Zoom X foam. That's Nike's bread and butter. Their proprietary foam, in my opinion, is probably the best running foam out there on the market. It's just so soft, responsive, and it's just, super quick to run in. And on the bottom of the shoe, you have the rubber traction on the top and then the bottom side. So this is pretty much identical compared to last year's. The amount of foam is pretty much still the same compared to last year's as well. The bottom part of the shoe pretty much the same. There's still a carbon fiber plate somewhere stacked in the shoe. And also there's a padding in the heel Achilles area for support. And this year there is a foam pod at the heel for extra cushioning. They also added some of the reinforcements on the front of the shoe for durabilities, so it doesn't break as often. But other than that, this shoe is pretty much the same compared to last year's. The silhouette is pretty much identical. If you look at both of these shoes together, they pretty much look the same. The big difference obviously is the upper of the shoe. They got rid of the vapor weave, which is, some people really loved it, and they changed it with this breathable mesh fabric. Which is also a plus. Some people might like the vapor weave and some people like the mesh. I personally was a fan of the vapor weave because it was very water resistant. This mesh material obviously isn't as water resistant compared to last year's model, but some people like it and some people don't, so it's really up to personal preference. Both of these shoes will run the same, so if it's not like one is faster than the other. So looking at other big differences, the toe area is a little bit wider compared to last year's model. The people complained that it was a little bit too tight, so now you can obviously tell that the toe area, there's a little bit more room for comfort. The laces are different, like I said before. The serrated laces do help keep your shoes tied longer without it coming loose. The tongue is pretty much the same, but they did add a little bit of padding underneath for lacing, so it's comfortable on the top of your shoe. The mesh is different. The foam and everything is the same. Forefoot, there's the reinforcement rubber in the front, so helps without people for durability, so your foot doesn't poke out, I guess. But I've never had any issues with the shoe like coming out like that, so that's not really an issue for me. There's a foam pad at the heel for cushioning. And on the bottom, you can tell both of these shoes are pretty much the same, as well as the foam and amount of foam in there, and the carbon fiber plate is the same, as well as the asymmetrical lacing pattern on here, which some people hate. But I didn't really care much for the asymmetrical lacing because I always had to flatten out the tongue while lacing it. It was never even. So this is a little bit better. I didn't have any like bunching up in the tongue while trying to lace up the shoe. So they did make some improvements here as well. But other than that, the function in the shoe is pretty much the same. So my first run in the Vaporfly Next Percent 2 was a treat. But stepping into a new foam and a shoe that's more comfortable with the mesh on top and a wider toe area was definitely great. If you ever ran in a Vaporfly Next Percent before, you'll understand what the feeling is. It's just so quick and so light on your feet, especially if you're used to wearing shoes that are about 9-10 ounces for training, and then you suddenly put this thing on. It feels like you're pretty much running on clouds. So it's definitely the same feeling you'll get from the Vaporfly, similar to last year's. It was quick, snappy, and this year just a little bit more comfortable with the revamped top, and also some of the more the padding in the heel area, as well as a wider toe area. So I didn't have any issues with the laces coming loose either. My top of the foot, where the tongue goes, is it's felt much better this year because of the extra padding. But other than that, there's not much to be said about this shoe. This shoe is quick, it's fast, and it's going to be used for a lot of races, and you'll see in the future. And you definitely can use this for pretty much any type of race out there, from the full marathon all the way down to 5K and lower. I personally will probably use this for half marathon and lower, and you still use the Alphafly Next Percent for the full marathon, but you could definitely use this for pretty much any race. And a lot of Olympians or world athletes still use this for the full marathon because I believe it's a little bit faster compared to the Alphafly, and a little bit lighter. So if you're looking for a new Vaporfly or just a really quick shoe for your races, you definitely can't go wrong with the Nike Vaporfly Next Percent 2. For previous Vaporfly Next Percent 1 owners, if you're looking for an upgrade, or if your shoe is probably worn down now and you just want a new pair, I would say you can definitely get the new version. It's a lot more comfortable compared to last year's model. But if you really like the Vaporweave, you can still buy last year's version out there. The price is pretty much the same. Basically, you get an extra toe room and some, the mesh fabric compared to Vaporweave, which is great for, wicking away water compared to this year's version. So comparing this shoe to other competitors out in the market, you can tell this shoe is still priced super high. Still probably one of the most expensive shoes out there. And now there's so many shoes out there that for racing, and a lot of the competitors of Nike have caught up in terms of technology and speed, especially from Adidas with the Adios Pro, which seems to be a very like a fan favorite for a lot of runners out there. It's also catching up to Nike in terms of races, and a lot of winners are using the Adidas Adios Pro, so that's also a very hot shoe. So price-wise, Nike still sits up there at $250. The Alphafly is $25 more. Also, this shoe is one of the lightest shoes out there in terms of in the market for racing. There are shoes lighter than that, but I feel like this shoe has the perfect balance of weight as well as features for you to go fast and get your PRs in. So a lot of choices out there now. So it used to be back in the days that Nike dominated all of racing shoes out there, but competitors have caught up with technology, and there are so many shoes and choices to choose from, which is great for your runners out there. And there's all different price ranges. If you don't want to pay $250 for a pair of racing shoes, or other shoes out there that are cheaper that probably do the same thing. And at the end of the day, it'll come down to your training. But if you have two people head to head with this pretty much same abilities and skills, shoes might be a difference. So overall, the Next Percent 2 didn't have a ton of changes compared to last year's model. The ride and feel will still be pretty much the same compared to last year's version, so you're fine with sticking with last year's model or going with this year's. I just feel like this year is a little bit more comfortable with the mesh upper and the tongue, as well as the new laces that keeps your foot locked in a little bit better, so that's always a plus. But other than that, not too much that really surprised me. I kind of, was exactly what I thought it would be. Pretty much a similar shoe with some small changes here and there. But, it's still a Vaporfly and it's still be quick. And it's still a shoe that everybody or a lot of people all over the world and the mini elites will pick for their races from a full marathon or a 5K. So you can't go wrong with the shoe. The price is the same compared to last year. So if you're looking for a Vaporfly or you want a newer one with some minimal changes, this shoe is definitely a small, I guess nice upgrade compared to last year's version. But, not too much else to be said. Both of these shoes will be great for your racing purposes, so you can stick with either one for your racing needs. So thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know down below what do you guys think of this shoe. Are you going to pick up the newer version of the shoe, or are you going to pass and wait for another shoe? Or if you guys have any other comments, feedback, or questions, please feel free to leave them down below. If you guys haven't subscribed or hit that like button yet, please hit that like and subscribe button. I hope you guys are all staying safe and your training's going well. And I'll talk to you guys on the next run.